Here with me now is Republican Vice Presidential nominee JD Vance, who represents Ohio in the U.S. Senate. Thank you for being here, sir. So the mayor of Springfield, Ohio, Rob Rue, said, quote, all these federal politicians that have negatively spun our city, they need to know they're hurting our city. And it was their words that did it. Before Donald Trump talked about eating dogs and cats on a debate stage, it was you, Senator, who first elevated this baseless rumor. These are your constituents. So why are you putting them at risk by continuing to spread claims about Haitian immigrants, despite officials in your state saying that there's no evidence and pleading for you to stop?
Well, Dana, first of all, what's putting the residents of Springfield at risk, which was a town completely ignored by the American media until Donald Trump and I started surfacing some of these concerns, is that they can't afford housing. They can't afford health care. The schools have been overwhelmed. The hospitals have been overwhelmed. And they're overwhelmed because Kamala Harris allowed 20,000 Haitian migrants to get dropped into a small Ohio town of about 40,000 people. And it's completely overwhelmed the services. Now, you ask, why have I talked about some of the things that I've been talking about? Let me just say this. My constituents have brought approximately a dozen separate concerns to me. 10 of them are verifiable and confirmable, and a couple of them I talk about because my constituents are telling me firsthand that they're seeing these things. So I have two options, Dana. I could ignore them, which is what the American media has done for years to this community, or I can actually talk about what people are telling me. And of course, many of the things that the media says are completely baseless have since been confirmed. For example, I was told, Dana, that by the American media, that it was baseless that migrants were capturing the geese from the local park pond and eating them. And yet there are 911 calls from well before this ever became a viral sensation of people complaining about that exact thing happening. So my attitude is listen to my constituents. Sometimes they're going to say things that people don't like, but they're saying things that people don't like because their town has been overwhelmed, and it's my
Okay.
job to try to fight for them and to protect them. Kamala Harris opened the border, and now these people are suffering. That's what I'm focused on, Dana.
Senator, I have to go through several things that you just said. First of all, the Clark County Sheriff and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources reviewed 11 months of 911 calls. They only identified 2 instances of people alleging Haitians were taking geese out of parks. They
What?
found 0 evidence to substantiate those claims. Also, other evidence that you have talked about, even you've retweeted alleged evidence, are unsourced social media videos from a different city, apparently no connection to Haitians. And this is from a conservative activist who offered a $5,000 reward for such things. And then going just backly to the schools and the hospitals and so forth being overwhelmed, nobody is disputing that the town of Springfield, Ohio, needs help. But you're not just a bystander, you're the senator from Ohio. So instead of saying things that are wrong and actually causing the hospitals, the schools, the government buildings to be evacuated because of bomb threats, because of the cats and dogs thing, why not actually be constructive in helping to better integrate them into the community? Because there are a lot of employers there who say that the Haitian workers are helping fill jobs that they need desperately filled.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Right. These people, they ain't got no documents. Did these people, how they even got into this country? How the Biden administration brought them in through something that doesn't even make any sense, just so they can hide them. That's why they took them to the small town they did. Why didn't they take him to New York, which is a sanctuary city? Why didn't they take him to Chicago, which is a sanctuary city? Why didn't they do that? They were trying to hide these people in America. Now they are telling me that these people are helping the jobs. How are you gonna get jobs when you don't have no documentation whatsoever, no social security number, no nothing, but you have jobs working in the hospital? The hospital will hire someone that doesn't have any documentation, no passports, no social security number, nothing. They will hire you. Are they that desperate? This is crazy. This is crazy. The people are complaining that they are being overran. They are complaining. And of course, the mainstream media is going to ignore them. But they are. I'm not going to say all this story is just baseless. I'm not going to say that. What is the mayor going to say? Oh, yeah, people are coming here, eating animals and doing all this kind of. Like, would he admit that? Like, what governor would admit that? What mayor would admit that? Of course, he's going to say it's baseless, it's trash, it's rubbish. These people are crazy. Don't listen to them. But who are you going to listen to? The politicians that is going to protect his own interest, or the people of the city? Like, who actually are you going to listen to? They did make those calls. They did call 911, lots of them. So who are you going to believe? The politicians or the people that are actually in the city, that are actually affected by this directly? Man, anyway, let's keep going.
Dana, first of all, let me just respond to a couple of things that you said, but I want to start with something you said, which I think is frankly disgusting and is more appropriate for a Democratic propagandist than it is for an American journalist. There is nothing that I have said that has led to threats against these hospitals. These hospitals, the bomb threats and so forth, it's disgusting. The violence is disgusting. We condemn it. We condemn all violence.
Senator,
and
this
threats of
happened
violence.
after you and
But to
President
say,
Trump
no,
were
Dana,
on
no,
the
Dana,
on the
to
debate
say,
stage, said
Dana,
that
no,
cats and dogs
you
were
asked
being
you
eaten.
asked a question,
And
Dana, and
after
I'm going to
that,
go ahead and answer it.
right, after that, they were
What
threatened.
we have said is that this town has suffered terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now, you just accused me of inciting violence against the community when all that I've done is surface the complaints of my constituents, people who are suffering because of Kamala Harris's policies. Are we not allowed to talk about these problems because some psychopaths are threatening violence? We can condemn the violence on the one hand, but also talk about the terrible consequences of Kamala Harris's open border on the other hand. Now, let me just fact check a couple of other things that you said, Dana, because it's important. You said that all of these migrants are in the country legally. They are in the country through what's called temporary protective status.
Right.
That is when Kamala Harris waved a magic amnesty wand, taking people and giving them legal status. That is not to say that they're here legally. That is a terrible indictment of her amnesty policies that have further opened the
But they're
border
not.
and further
But it's
caused
not illegal.
terrible migration
You
into
might
this
be.
country.
You might not agree with the policy, and obviously you don't, which is totally fair and legitimate. There are policy disagreements all the time. But the fact is, it is the law because
It's a
President
bogus.
Biden
It's something they
and
just
Vice
made up.
President Harris
It's actually something they made
I
up.
don't
Like,
want
that
to,
is just
frankly, go
bogus.
down this conversation about
No,
policy
Dana,
because no.
you made a point. You don't. I agree. You don't want to talk about policy.
No,
Dana,
what I
which is
want
why
to
you're
talk about,
talking about
what
other
I want to talk
distractions
about,
instead of about the fact
Senator,
that
it
Kamala
was
Harris,
your
Dana,
distraction.
granted
You were
amnesty
the
at
one
a
who
mass
started
level.
talking
She
about
granted
eating
amnesty
dogs
at a
and
mass
cats.
level.
You were the one who
Dana,
brought this
my
up. The
constituents were
president
the
said
ones
it to
who talked about
60
eating
million
dog and
people.
cats, and I talked about it because you were ignoring this community. My constituents talked about
Have
it,
you
and
been
it is
to
my
Springfield?
responsibility to surface their concerns when the American media
Have you been to
ignores it.
Springfield?
Dana, I've been to Springfield probably 100 times in my life.
How about
I've taken my
recently,
children
since
to
you've
get
heard
ice
this?
cream at Young's Jersey Dairy.
Have you heard recently since
Have
you've
I been in
gotten
the
these
last?
calls?
Have I been in the last 4 days?
No,
No,
I'm
I haven't
talking
been in
about
the last 4 days, but I've
since
talked
you've
to a lot
gotten
of
these
people in
calls from the
Springfield, Dana,
constituents.
and they're telling me this stuff is happening. Dana, would you like to ask me questions and then let me answer them, or would you like to debate me on these topics? I noticed that when you had Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, you gave them multiple choice answers to the questions that you asked, and you allowed them to answer the questions. I'm happy to be here to talk about policy, but if you're going to interrupt me every single time that I open my mouth, then why am I even doing this? So please ask a question, and I'd ask you to be polite enough to let me answer it.
Yes, I am, and
she can't even say, like, she can't even get up.
I think that
Look. She can't even get out her words, man. This CNN people, they are so biased. It's bleeding through their nose. Like, you could see the hate on her face. Like, could you imagine if The Republicans win the presidency. Like, oh my God, it is go. These people will explode. Like the buyer, all the interviews they did with, well, the few, just the one interview that she did with what's her face, Kamala or whatever she calls herself. There was no pushback. There was no, like, they weren't hostile. It wasn't even an interview. It was just a conversation. Like they are friends. Like the biasness of these people is so infuriating to watch sometimes. It's so infuriating to watch. And I like how he answered that question. I really loved it. I really I really loved how he got at her and called out the BS and called out the this is phenomenal to watch. Listen, every time I'm seeing this dude, man, he slowly, he slowly, intelligently destroys these people. Because Dana Bash brought him in here to kind of ask him all the got you questions, but it's not working for her. And then she became aggressive. And this is supposed to be journalists that are supposed to be non-biased. But I guess there's no such thing as non-biased journalists. It's very unfortunate, but that is where we are. I'm loving this guy. Every time I see him, I'm loving what I'm seeing. The way he talks, the way he carries himself. And it would have been a really slippery slope with this because people are saying it's not true. The people that are living there saying it's true. The politicians are saying it's not true. Believe whatever you want to believe, but if people are telling him this, then who are you going to believe? The politicians that are there to protect themselves, or the people that are actually living in the cities saying that they are being overrun and they don't like what is happening? How are you going to bring thousands of people and dump them in a small city? Well, not even dump, trying to hide them with some bogus amnesty BS. It's just got anyway. I love this interview. No wonder it's been going viral, man. If you like the video, please hit that like button, hit the share button, leave your comments down below. I would love to read them. And if you may, please subscribe. You have a good one.